Television Unlimited.
Here's looking at you, or at least your data, on screens,
on paper,
and even on cookies.
We'll tell you what to look for in a monitor.
We'll show you how to put 3, or even 4 functions where just your printer used to live.
And we'll show you how to put your face or your kids on an apron, a clock, or even a postage stamp.
On this When You've Got It flaunted edition of PC World's Digital Duo.
PC World's Digital Duo is sponsored in part by BenQ, bringing you LCD monitors, digital projectors, televisions, and other products that make life more enjoyable. BenQ, because enjoyment matters.
Looking for a new projector or TV for that big screen experience? Make sure it has DLP technology from Texas Instruments for a sharp picture that won't fade over time. Ask for DLP technology at electronics retailers near you.
Fred, yeah, the printer's down.
Can you help?
I can try, but I'm gonna need complete silence. So much pain. So much pain. There.
Is it fixed?
No, it's fried. But I'll get a new one from CDW right away.
When you need technology, CDW responds. With fast shipping on top brand technology, you get what you need when you need it. CDW, the right technology right away.
Hey, Fred, can you take a look at
I'll
my
need
wires?
complete silence.
I'm Steve Manis, columnist for PC World and Forbes magazine.
I'm Angela Gunn, columnist for USAtoday.com.
So you've got everything tucked away on your computer, photos, videos, your great American screenplay. Well, how do you get them off your hard drive and somewhere you can actually use them?
Well, you gotta get it out of there, and that's what this show is about. Output, which is an awful word, by the way.
Okay.
But let's start with printers. These days, printers are turning into freebies. Buy a computer, get a printer, and pay and pay and pay for ink.
Yeah, I mean, there are differences among printers for sure, but I think a lot of people will do just fine with a free or cheap inkjet.
But there's a special category that will cost money, but may be a better deal for a lot of people. I'm talking about so-called multifunction printers, MFPs for short.
Yeah, and some companies call them AIOs, which sounds a little too much like Old MacDonald for me, but of course means all in one. And I like to call them pluribus unums. Now, as a Latin scholar, you know that does not mean in God we trust.
No, it means from many one, and you left out the E at the beginning.
E pluribus apologies. Anyway, call them what you like. These guys always do printing and then go on to do at least 2 other useful things, and sometimes 3. You can use them as scanners to capture pages of text or photos to your computer. You can also use these as copiers, which are just great to have around.
And some of them toss in the ability to do faxing, which is getting to be less important in the age of digital documents, but sometimes it's handy.
So, it prints, it copies, it scans, maybe it faxes. Now, what would you expect to pay for one of these beauties? $1 million, $1,000?
How about 100?
Go away, girl, you're spoiling my spiel. But it's true, and that's an amazing deal. And I gotta say, I've had one for several years. I paid a lot more than that for, and I wouldn't dream of going back to a plain old printing machine.
And these all-in-ones generally copy in color, which is nice if you put in a photo and want to copy right away.
Yeah, and then there's the fax, which is sort of a bonus, but you got to be careful. Sometimes these units just come with fax software you can run on your computer, which is not the same thing.
True. Okay, there are a lot of these multi-function printers on the market. So, how do you choose?
Well, it depends on what you're after. If you're just going to do plain vanilla office documents and you don't care about color, you can get a laser model like this Samsung unit. It's basically a color scanner on top, black and white laser printer on the bottom.
And a page from a laser printer is generally cheaper than one from an inkjet. Toner's cheaper than ink. And I think laser's crisper, though most people wouldn't notice.
But inkjet's a whole lot more versatile, particularly since it does color and photos as well as plain old black and white text and graphics, and it's a whole lot more popular, except when it's time to buy those pricey new cartridges. But I think for most folks, inkjet models make the most sense. You just want to be able to print in color.
No argument here.
Well, my favorite feature aside from copying is actually the ADF, which is the annoying acronym for Automatic Document Feeder. It lets you stack a pile of paper to be copied or faxed right into the hopper, press a button, walk away like on this Canon here. It's really wonderful when you have a bunch of things you want to copy or fax.
Well, yeah, of course, they've got to be letter-sized things. You can't just stick a pile of MasterCards receipts on there and expect them to spit out your expense report.
That's what the unjamming part is for. No, and seriously, you probably don't want to stick a crumpled page in there either, but you can lift the lid and arrange your receipts neatly on the glass.
But a document feeder does add typically at least 50 and maybe $100 to the price.
Yeah, and it's true, and it makes the whole thing bigger, but it's a real time saver. And so are multiple paper trays, which that big HP over there and this Canon both have. That lets you leave plain paper and photo paper in the machine all the time, so you don't have to keep swapping. But all these printers would be better if they had bigger output trays. This little HP doesn't have one at all. The paper just kind of comes out on top of the paper that's going in, kind of lame.
Another feature that can come in handy with all-in-ones is networking. Some of these units, and some regular printers too, let you hook them directly into your network with either a standard Ethernet cable, like this HP model, or wirelessly over Wi-Fi.
Now, of course, you can generally share printers across your home network anyway, but the catch is that with sharing, the computer that's connected to the printer has to be on, not asleep, when you try to print from some other machine. With a true network printer, as long as the network's available, so is the printer. It's not essential, but it's very nice.
When you go shopping for one of these, it's like, well, shopping for a printer. The more you pay in general, the faster it spits out what you've got, whether it's the printing or the scanning or the copying, and you may see a boost in quality as well. And you may get some special features too, like slots for memory cards from cameras or an LCD that shows you what's on them.
Yeah, but I think in general, these things are so handy, I can't imagine buying a plain vanilla printer. If E pluribus unum is good enough to appear on United States money, it's good enough to have a featured place on my desk.
Well, here's something that's going away, and not many people are going to miss it. I'm talking about the big, clunky, desk-hogging tube monitor called the CRT, for cathode ray tube. It's a flat panel world now.
I mean, I still have a certain fondness for these things. Yes, they do take up a lot extra space compared to those nice, slim, flat panels. But I mean, what are you going to put behind there? Your collection of sock puppets?
How about the wall of my apartment? I live in a studio. Those big old monitors also produce a lot of heat, which wastes energy, and they deteriorate over time. So a tube that looked pretty good 5 years ago doesn't look so hot today.
All true, and you forgot to mention that they weigh a lot. So about the only theoretical advantage is picture quality. The viewing angle is wide, so you don't have to sit right in front to see it, and the response time is fast, which is good for gamers.
But both of those advantages go away with modern flat panels. Unless you're a graphics professional who needs the particularly accurate color you get on a big tube, you're going to prefer one of these skinny guys.
Well, or unless you're a professional cheapskate. I mean, these guys are cheap, cheap, cheap.
And flat panels are getting there. Prices have dropped about as much as ex-Seinfeld star's popularity. And the premium isn't more than maybe a couple $100, if that.
So if you think we're getting ready to tell you to buy a flat panel monitor one of these days, well, yeah, we are.
But there are a few things worth knowing before you hit the stores.
For openers, understand that screen size numbers are honest for flat panels. With a tube, you always end up with less than the official count. The rule of thumb is just knock 1 inch off the tube size to get the same size flat panel screen. So a 17-inch flat panel matches an 18-inch tube.
In general, the bigger the screen, the more pixels you get, which lets you cram more stuff on screen at once. A 15-inch flat panel gives you a resolution of 1024 by 768 pixels. A 17-inch monitor gives you 1280 by 1024, or 2/3 more stuff visible on the screen at once.
Yeah, but there's a catch. At least for now, 19-inch monitors give you the same number of pixels as 17-inch models. So you don't see more info, you see everything a little bigger, and to my eyes, usually a little grainier. But if your vision's bad, the 19-inchers are probably a good idea.
Yeah, but I think we both agree that for now, the 17-inch monitors are usually the best deal. You can get one in the neighborhood of $250, which is not much more than you'll spend for a 15-inch monitor. But you'll likely have to spend an extra $100 to go up to 19.
Well, these prices keep going down. And just to confuse things, monitor makers are adding widescreen models, which have two big advantages. They make it relatively simple to open two windows side by side, say for comparing prices while you're shopping online. And they're also handy for watching widescreen movies from DVDs. And they're cheaper than ever. I mean, we're seeing some for under $700, but they're not exactly what anybody'd call cheap yet.
Yeah, and you know, I don't like them myself. I mean, if you need a lot of screen space and not for DVDs, consider doing what a lot of professionals have been doing for years, especially in the Mac world. Use multiple monitors mounted side by side.
Yeah, but one problem with this scheme is you'll need to install an extra video card like this for each monitor, or get a special video card that can handle multiple monitors.
Macs handle this multiple monitor thing a lot better, but if you really need a lot of screen space, multiple monitors will give it to you much more cheaply than buying a single big monitor.
So what else should you be looking for? Well, as we mentioned, one of the long-standing problems with flat panels has been that they're hard to see from an angle that's not straight on. But this is way better in newer monitors. And if this is important to you, you can easily find units that have wide, horizontal, and vertical viewing angles.
But unless you have a lot of people looking over your shoulder, you probably wouldn't care much about this. But what you do need, though, is a way to adjust the height and the tilt of the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way the stands work is one of the real differentiators among these monitors. So you want to be sure you can adjust it to the position that feels good on you.
And another thing that makes tilt and height adjustment important now is that more and more monitors these days are coming out with a so-called clear screen.
Or as I call it, shiny.
Well, I mean, the technology has different names depending on what vendor's selling. I don't think anybody calls it shiny, but it generally transmits more light, gives you more contrast and deeper black on photos and movies, and it minimizes a certain shimmery effect you see on traditional matte screens, the anti-glare screens.
Yeah, but the clear screens don't cut reflected light as much as the older models.
They do not.
So you have to be careful where you put them or you get a reflection. And that's why it's particularly important for them to have some height and tilt flexibility so you can angle them away from things like the overhead lights.
And there's one more flexibility trick. Some of these monitors can swivel from horizontal to vertical without displaying stuff sideways like that.
If you're laying out a document, you can see a whole page at once, but you need special software.
Now, companies like Samsung throw the software in the box with their pivoting screens. On a couple of the machines I tried, the software didn't work too well. But companies like Dell offer pivoting monitors like that one and make you go out and buy the software yourself. And check where the cables go. It's better if they end up in the base rather than having to pivot along with the monitor.
One more feature, built-in speakers, which almost always stink.
Yeah, tinny, tiny. Okay, if you're not listening to anything you care about, and they do save a lot of space that you could use, but we'll talk about real speakers on another show.
One more consideration worth noting, and that's whether the monitor has analog inputs or digital ones, though usually if it does have digital, it has analog too.
Yeah, at least in theory, using a digital input, and the geek term is DVI, gives you a better picture. But to get that picture, your video card has to have a digital output, and many of them don't.
And the good news is that today's analog monitors are quite good.
Which brings me to my hobby horse, which is adjust that monitor. You've got brightness and contrast settings, as well as some settings for color and alignment. Now, it's usually a lot easier to adjust a flat panel than a tube, but you do need to go in there and do the job. And some monitors have this single auto-adjust magic button that helps clear a lot of things up in a jiffy.
A magic button. Well, continuing your hobby horse parade, how about screen resolution?
Oh man, if there's one thing I see time and time again with flat panels, it's that people run them at the wrong resolution. Flat panels are designed to run at their native pixel count, 1280 by 1024, whatever it is. Whenever you run them at some other resolution, they look awful. So make sure that you figure out what the native resolution is for yours. It should be on the box or in the manual. Then go into the control panel for displays and pick the resolution that matches the monitor. It might happen automatically, but a lot of times it does not.
Okay, now this is one downside of flat panels. Once in a while, you'll try an older program, particularly a game, that wants to be in a specific resolution, usually a lower one. It's not going to look very good on a flat panel. It's one place that a tube monitor may be better.
And if you're a gamer and you're looking for a flat panel, you probably want to check the specs for what's known as response time, which is how fast the screen can change the image. The fewer milliseconds, the better. But if you don't play fast-moving games, you'll probably never notice.
When you get your monitor home, look at a bunch of stuff on it. Look at images that are mostly black. Look at images that are mostly white. What you're looking for are what are known as stuck pixels. They're always green, or they're always red, they're always blue. They're always the same color, even when they shouldn't be.
Yeah, now manufacturers differ on their policies regarding stuck pixels, but if your unit has them, try to exchange it. This is one problem that just doesn't go away by itself.
It'll get worse, in fact. And one more thing, try to buy a unit that comes with a decent warranty. I'd say at least 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, your LCD should last a lot longer than that, and the manufacturer should be willing to stand behind it at least that far.
Overall, dumping one of those overweight tube units is a quick way to lose 30 pounds of ugly fat.
My friend here is insulted and will never light up for you again.
Still wondering about all this?
Check out PCWorld.com and click on Digital Duo.
Well, it's time to draw from that fount of digital output the Digital Duo tip jar.
And here it is, the disposal tip. Go.
Okay, you just bought a flat panel monitor to replace that clunky tube on the desktop. You could just throw the old one in your closet in case the flat panel goes flat line.
Which is what a pack rat like me would probably do. But what happens for smart people who like to clear out their old junk instead of just moving it around? And what happens when the tube just up and dies?
The answer is not throw it in the garbage. In many states, monitors and computers themselves are considered hazardous waste. And in places like Seattle, even the hazardous waste facility that takes paints and pesticides and fluorescent lamps won't accept computer stuff.
It's ugly. So what do you do? Well, if the unit works, you might be able to give it to a local charity or a national group like the Christina Foundation. But don't be surprised if you're ready to chuck the thing. Nobody will want it even for free. Still, particularly if you have an entire system that's not too old, you might benefit somebody who could really use it, and you might qualify for a tax deduction to boot.
And don't forget free cycling, on which you'll find information at freecycle.org. This is a web community dedicated to giving stuff away absolutely free in cities across the nation. If it's something that works, there may be someone else who wants it out there. Think eBay, but without the money changing hands.
Now, if that fails or the thing plain doesn't work anymore, many localities have special facilities that take old monitors and other computer equipment. The best ways to find out about them are to use your local waste disposal facility's website or just give them a call.
Yeah, expect to pay a small fee for them to take each item off your hands. Some companies pick up, some won't. Shop around.
And another place to shop, this is sort of shopping in reverse, come to think of it, is at companies that make this stuff. For example, Dell and HP will take back not just their own products, but almost anything.
Well, both companies want you to pack the stuff up. Then you go online, fill out a form, and they'll send out a courier service to pick it up again for a fee.
And some electronics retailers throw recycling fairs now and then, again, usually for a fee, often in the mall parking lot. And they may take stuff the computer makers won't.
Yeah, but whatever you do, don't throw these things in the garbage. It's an insult to the environment, and increasingly, it's against the law.
Tip jar, thank you for keeping us clean and honest. Now we're getting into another kind of output, the kind you send out to get. And here's something we bet you've never seen before, the Digital Duo commemorative postage stamp.
I thought the post office only did commemorative stamps for dead people, except for Elvis.
Yeah, this is true, but companies like Stamps.com and Zazzle.com kind of cheat on that rule. They let you create stamps from your own photos and artwork even if you're alive. They're real stamps approved by that same United States Postal Service, and the companies charge a pretty penny for them.
Do they? A sheet of 20 first-class 37-cent stamps will cost you $17, which is nearly 85 cents a shot for the joy of vanity. Of course, there are quantity discounts, and if you buy 100 sheets at a time, your 37-cent stamps will cost you a mere 60 cents a piece.
Oh, so you'll buy cheaper Christmas cards to make up the difference. And you got to be a bit careful with what you put in there. Stamps.com says you have to agree not to send anything unlawful, fine, or obscene, offensive, blasphemous, pornographic, sexually suggestive, deceptive, threatening, menacing, abusive, harmful, invasion of privacy, supportive of unlawful action, defamatory, libelous, vulgar, violent, or otherwise objectionable. I mean, who defines this stuff? Objectionable to whom?
Yikes! And you can't violate trademark or copyright either. But if Stamps.com rejects your order, it can charge you $10 as a processing fee.
Nice.
Zazzle doesn't seem to use the word offensive, which is probably good considering their website has this picture of a baby that looks like it's got strained peas all over its face. Thanks. But it has even more specific no-nos that just go on and on and on.
But assuming you can afford the freight and you don't want the stamps of a celebrity, a felon, or misdemeanorist, or politician, or religious figurehead, hey, you're in luck. You pick the photo you want and you upload it to the service.
You can rotate the image, flip it, zoom in and out, and change the border color. And you can change the postage amounts to make them for postcards or express packages, though you'll pay even more for that.
Now, Stamps.com produces only horizontal stamps with a square image portion. Zazzle gives you a rectangular image area that's more like what most cameras take and lets you do both vertical and horizontal stamps. And Zazzle lets you overlay text on your image in a wide variety of fonts and colors.
You know what? Every bridezilla chick in America just had a great idea for her wedding invitations.
Aha. Well, thanks to the amazing efforts of American entrepreneurs, everybody else in the country can plaster their images on just about anything else you can think of. Holiday greeting cards, no problem. Photo albums, hey, now you can create photo books thanks to iPhoto on the Mac and a whole bunch of services on the web like Snapfish.
You said you want cookies? We got them. Delicious and completely edible.
And look at all this stuff. We got a picture puzzle, a mouse pad, a deck of cards, a gimme hat, all kinds of clothes, mugs, and even boxer shorts. And I mean, you want edible cakes? Believe it or not, you can get edible photo paper and photo inks that plug right into your Canon inkjet printer, and according to the company, they are not only FDA approved, but kosher. And, you know, we didn't try them, but I am not making this up.
Okay, we couldn't make that one up if we tried. You want to see a link to all that? Go to our website at pcworld.com/digitalduo. But if you want to see the range of clothing and gifts you can buy, go to cafepress.com and click on Make Your Own Stuff. They have aprons, tote bags, boxer shorts, bibs, t-shirts, onesies, and probably onesies for your dog. Not to mention beer steins and messenger bags.
Yeah, and stuff like this is all over the place. I mean, Kodak has the playing cards. Snapfish will let you customize a cutting board. That's kind of interesting. A scarf or a golf towel. I mean, several companies will also turn that adorable little kitty of yours into a giant throw or Afghan.
Well, mine's pretty much a throw rug already, but we've even seen ads for custom bobblehead dolls, though we didn't actually try that yet. There is no stopping the taste, or more likely the narcissism, of the American public. Ooh, look at me, I'm on a coffee mug.
Hey, we're in the major leagues. It is time to open up our mailbag and award a paragon of publicity from our PR pinata.
It's where we put all the dumb doohickeys that public relations folks send us to be cute. But we cover the logos with duct tape and recycle them onto you if we read your mail on the air.
Charlie writes from Cape Canaveral, Florida, I work with a team of 6 people at Kennedy Space Center who provide online launch coverage for space shuttle and rocket launches. As I'm sure you can imagine, during a launch we have 4,000 different windows open on our monitors, and it can get pretty crowded. I myself end up totally cranking the screen resolution to fit everything on my screen. In the interest of human space exploration and half a dozen very big fans of your show, could you please recommend your choice for a robust 23-inch flat panel monitor?
Thanks for the compliments, Charlie, and we love you guys. But these are our tax dollars at work, so no 23-inch monitors for you. Those things cost more than $1,000, and for that you only get about 2.28 million pixels.
So we're going to recommend you get two 17-inch monitors and an extra video card. Total cost maybe $600, and you get 15% more pixels, and the taxpayers save some money.
And if you need still more pixels, go to 3 17-inch monitors and a 3-headed video card like Matrox's Parhelia. The whole setup may cost a few bucks more than that 23-inch monitor you were asking about, but you'll have a desk that looks more like the cockpit of the Starship Enterprise.
And for sending us that question, we're sending you this dream catcher.
You guys in the space program really do catch dreams, though bigger ones than this thing can manage.
Want a prize like this? Aim for the stars and send us some mail.
So, what do we think of this week's stuff? Multifunction printers.
Hey, I've owned one for years, and when it dies, I'll bury it and go out and buy another one. It's immensely handy to have everything in one unit that takes up a reasonable amount of space. I love having a copier, and especially a color copier. I use the fax less and less every year, but I do use it. It's just there. And I really like that automatic document feeder. You just throw in a bunch of pages, it goes off and makes the copies or sends the long fax scanner. Well, I don't use that so much, but basically, unless you have some extremely special needs that require a heavy-duty copier or printer or scanner, there's just no real downside here except a slightly higher initial price. Big save. And I particularly like the Canon because it's got everything in it. And I like that HP because it's got that networking.
Okay, you know, I still don't need a printer, but if you need one, definitely go multifunction. So save. Big delete, though, for freebie printers that come with computers. They're worth about half what you pay for them.
Ouch. Okay, flat panel monitor.
Oh, I love flat panels. They're cheaper every year. They're better every year. I personally find the text sharper, and I love the space you save with them. Save, save, save.
Well, I'm still using ancient CRTs basically because of my if it ain't broke, don't fix it philosophy, and also because I'm cheap and because of a couple special features on those particular old monitors. But next time, it's definitely an LCD. They've really improved. The prices are low, so sure, a save for flat panels. And remember, you get one free with every laptop computer.
Indeed, you do. Now, customized products.
You know, I think these things are mostly immensely tacky, but then I don't have kids, and maybe if I did, I'd want to run around with a picture of my baby on my head. I don't think so. But you know, I don't buy novelty items without people on them either, and these things do open up a whole new realm of personalization. So not for me, but in the interest of openness and generosity, a very mild save.
You know, people like this stuff. I have no particular problem with it, and I've seen some great use of these, not as self-promotion, but as fundraisers.
Good point.
So save, though, delete the lawyers who wrote those ridiculous terms and conditions.
I'm Steve Manis.
I'm Angela Gunn.
We're two analog people
In a digital world.
See you next time. Those lawyers, yeah. That's pretty bad.
PC World's Digital Duo is sponsored in part by BenQ, bringing you digital projectors, televisions, LCD monitors, MP3 players, and other digital products that make life more enjoyable. BenQ, because enjoyment matters.
Looking for a new projector or TV for that big screen experience? Make sure it has DLP technology from Texas Instruments for a sharp picture that won't fade over time. Ask for DLP technology at electronics retailers near you.
Return to the street corners with the greatest vocal groups of the 50s and 60s. All your favorite songs, all your favorite groups, new live performances, and archival classics from the vault. My music here on PBS.
See the pyramids along the Nile.
A new doo-wop extravaganza. Saturday at 7 on KERA. Watch The Boss live in London, Saturday at 9:30 on KERA.
Our most cherished Christmas traditions come from Europe. I'm Rick Steves. Join me in experiencing 7 cultures, a rich variety of traditions, and countless voices as we celebrate a European Christmas.
An all-new Rick Steves special, Saturday afternoon at 1 on KERA. KERA Television Unlimited.